think the jury has looked at specifically that story that he made up on direct examination, that this call happened. And then Todd Blanche did such a masterful job just dismantling that there was any way that that call could have happened. Because to your point, he had texted with Keith Schiller, who was President Trump's security guy, and said, "I have a 14-year-old who's prank calling me. Let's have a call about that." The call lasted about a minute and a half, and I think Todd Blanche did an excellent job saying you could not have discussed the prank calls and then handed the phone to President Trump and discussed the details of this, what you're alleging happened. And it was just, I think, so masterful. And there's been several other places where this jury has no way they can believe what Michael Cohen's saying today is what happened. Because, again, he's making it up. He's a certified Trump hater. He wants the president to be convicted. And this is the sad thing. I think this has done lasting damage to our American system of justice. If Alvin Bragg and the Manhattan DA's office are going to bring this week of a case that depended on someone as flimsy and as untrustworthy as Michael Cohen, this is just not how it's supposed to work. As a former U.S. attorney and a former prosecutor, I can tell you, you bring cases that are rock solid, that are through the traditional grooves of prosecuting cases. You don't do weak cases like this depending on liars.
So if you are Trump's legal team, what do? Do you present a defense? Do you bring in some witnesses to talk about campaign finance law, like Bradley Smith? Do you bring in Bob Costello, who I talked to a couple times this week? He's got some bombshells.
Yeah, I think you have to, first of all, calculate whether you believe that the government has even come close to proving their case. I don't think anything I have seen demonstrates just the basic prima facie case of the elements of the alleged crime. Certainly, there are people that could help dismantle Michael Cohen. I think he did a pretty good job himself, proving he can't be trusted and his testimony is not reliable. But, maybe they bring in Bob Costello. Maybe they bring in a campaign finance expert. I certainly don't think that you should put Donald Trump on the stand. That just is not going to be necessary based on how weak this case is. But remember, you also have Judge Merchan, who is making these ridiculous rulings preventing Donald Trump from putting on some of these witnesses and helping defend himself. But, again, this case is so weak and it's just I hope they just rest and know that the jury is going to not have enough information and facts to convict on any of these charges.
One of the interesting moments, Matt, this week in court was when on cross-examination of Michael Cohen, they played some of his podcasts, the Mea Culpa podcast. And the clip that they played, he's like screaming like a lunatic, talking about how he wants to see, Trump in the big house behind bars. And then they cut to, here's Michael Cohen trying to look all manicured on the stand. How powerful do you think that moment was, particularly to a jury?
Yeah. Well, I've tried many jury cases and then had a chance to talk to the jurors afterwards. And it's always surprising, one, how much they take their, and I don't know if this jury will do it, but how much they take their instructions seriously, that they aren't supposed to do their own research. They aren't supposed to try to learn about the case outside of what they're hearing, and how surprised they often are to find out that there's more to the story, that there was information that was kept away from them or otherwise not allowed in to help the defendant defend themselves. But, I just really think in this particular case, Michael Cohen is not as he is presenting to this jury. And I think Todd Blanche and the defense team has done a very good job of highlighting that and showing, to your point, what a maniac Michael Cohen is and how he is trying to present as something very different on the stand. And it's just not, I don't think it's convincing anyone.
So has the prosecution, therefore, met the burden of proof? And how does the defense sort of put that in the summation to really sort of seal the package and make it clear to the jury?
Yeah. I don't think Judge Merchan is going to do it, but I think a directed verdict would be appropriate. I just do not believe that the government has proven the elements of the crime. They don't have evidence on certain very important things. Now, Judge Merchan is going to suggest that it boils down to the credibility of Michael Cohen. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then it's a slam dunk, because Michael Cohen has essentially invented the necessary evidence to prove the elements of this crime. And on cross-examination, I think that was laid bare. So while I don't think a directed verdict is going to be granted, I think it should be. And I think the jury will make quick work of exonerating President Trump.